I stood in the kitchen, staring into the trash can, my chest tightening as I looked at my 5-year-old daughter's beautiful birthday cake, completely ruined and covered in garbage. When I confronted my older brother, he just smirked, took a sip of his drink, and laughed. She wasn't worth wasting expensive cake on anyway. Tears welled in my eyes as I picked up my crying little girl, packed our things, and walked out of the house. They thought they could treat us like second-class citizens forever. But the very next morning, my mom called me, sobbing hysterically into the phone. "Please call the venue. They're canceling your brother's wedding." I took a deep breath, smiled to myself, and simply said, "Honestly, I don't care." Mom started screaming in absolute rage, but I just hung up. They had no idea who they were truly messing with. My name is Sarah, and at 27 years old, I finally realized that trying to buy my family's love was a losing game. I am a professional event planner and caterer, running a successful boutique business that handles high-profile corporate clients and elite celebrations across the city. Despite building financial independence entirely on my own, my family always viewed my career as a glorified maid service. To them, my older brother David was the only true success story, the golden child whose ego was constantly fed by our parents, while my 5-year-old daughter Lily and I were treated like completely minor background characters. Before I reveal how his arrogant world came crashing down around him, I have a quick question for you. Follow my story until the very end and comment the city or country you are watching from right now. I always love checking the comments to see exactly how far Lily's story travels across the world. David was currently preparing for a massive high society wedding to a woman from an incredibly wealthy, judgmental family. Because of this, his entitlement had reached an absolute all-time high, and my parents happily enabled every bit of it. Every family gathering became a stage for David to brag about his future in-laws and his elite lifestyle. I kept my head down, focusing entirely on my beautiful daughter and my business, completely unaware that David's desperate need to be the center of attention would lead him to commit an act of pure, unforgivable cruelty. It was Saturday afternoon, and I was hosting a small fifth birthday party for Lily in my parents' backyard, trying to keep things simple and joyful for her. I had spent the previous night baking a beautiful two-tier custom princess cake, complete with intricate sugar flowers that matched her favorite fairy tale book. Halfway through the party, David arrived unannounced, clearly irritated that the family's attention was focused on my daughter rather than his upcoming wedding plans. He kept making passive-aggressive comments about how noisy children were and how the backyard layout looked cheap compared to his elite rehearsal dinner setup. When it was time to sing, I walked into the kitchen to grab the lighter, leaving the cake on the counter for just a brief moment. When I walked back in, I froze in absolute horror. Lily's beautiful cake was sitting right at the bottom of the kitchen trash can, completely smashed beneath coffee grounds and leftover food wrappers. David was standing right next to the counter, casually taking a sip of his drink with a smug smirk plastered across his face. When I demanded to know why he would do something so incredibly malicious to his own niece, he didn't even blink. He just shrugged his shoulders, laughed coldly, and muttered the exact words that broke my heart. She wasn't worth wasting expensive cake on anyway. Tears welled in my eyes as I looked at my crying little girl, scooped her up in my arms, and walked straight out of the house. As I drove back to my apartment with Lily fast asleep in her car seat, the hot tears of anger finally cooled into a sharp, calculating focus. David truly believed that his status as the golden child shielded him from any real-world consequences. But he had no idea about the massive financial leverage I was quietly holding over his entire future. The prestigious high-end country club venue that he and his wealthy fiancée had booked for their high society wedding happened to be owned by one of my most loyal long-term corporate catering clients. Over the years, I had built a flawless professional relationship with the owner, managing all of their high-end corporate galas and private VIP functions. When my mother had begged me months ago to help David secure the venue because their standard waiting list was over 2 years long, I decided to do her a massive favor. I personally called the owner, staked my entire professional reputation on the booking, and guaranteed the contract under my boutique business's exclusive corporate discount rate. This single favor saved my brother over $15,000 in upfront booking fees and guaranteed them a prime weekend slot that normal clients could only dream of accessing. I sat at my kitchen table in the quiet apartment, staring at the venue contract copy on my laptop, realizing the power dynamic had completely shifted. David had brutally thrown away my daughter's joy, completely unaware that his own dream wedding was resting entirely on my professional goodwill. Without hesitation, I opened my email and sent a brief formal message to the venue owner, officially withdrawing my business endorsement and canceling the corporate guarantee. The very next morning, my phone began vibrating violently against my nightstand at exactly a.m. I picked it up to see my mother's name flashing on the screen, and the second I pressed answer, her hysterical, breathless sobbing filled the room. "Sarah, please, you have to do something right now." She wailed, her voice cracking with pure desperation. "Snorts, call the venue owner immediately. They just sent a formal notice saying they are completely canceling your brother's wedding contract, and they won't even give back the deposit." I took a slow, deep breath, leaned back against my pillows, and allowed a calm, steady smile to spread across my face. I remembered the sight of my daughter's ruined cake in the trash and the arrogant smirk on David's face from the day before. I cleared my throat and simply said, "Honestly, I don't care." The line went dead silent for a single second before my mother started screaming in an absolute unbridled panic, accusing me of destroying the family name and ruining her golden boy's life over a silly little birthday mistake. I didn't say another word, I just quietly hung up on her. Before I tell you how David reacted when he realized his high society future was evaporating, I need to ask you a question. If someone intentionally broke your innocent child's heart, would you save their wedding just to keep the family peace? Or would you stand your ground and let it burn? Let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below. As my phone continued to ring off the hook with frantic text messages, I knew the real storm was just beginning. Less than 30 minutes after I hung up on my mother, my phone lit up with a call from David. The usual booming, arrogant confidence in his voice was completely gone, replaced by a frantic, high-pitched desperation that I had never heard from him before. "Sarah, what the hell did you do?" He practically screamed into the receiver, entirely dropping the smug facade he had worn in the kitchen the day before. "The country club management told me that my reservation was flagged and canceled because your business account withdrew its endorsement. You need to call them and fix this right now." I poured myself a fresh cup of coffee, thoroughly enjoying the sudden dramatic shift in power. "I'm not fixing anything, David," I replied, my voice completely smooth and detached. "You made it very clear yesterday that you don't value my daughter or my hard work, so I decided to stop letting you profit from my professional connections." David began to openly beg, his voice cracking as he explained that his wealthy fiancé's family would call off the entire high society wedding if they lost the city's most exclusive venue. The elite social standing he had been bragging about for months was completely tied to this location, and without my corporate discount, he couldn't even afford the standard retail booking rate. He was completely at my mercy, desperately pleading with the sister he had dismissed as a glorified maid just 24 hours ago. The raw satisfaction of holding all the financial and social cards was overwhelming, and for the first time in my life, the golden child was completely powerless against me. Later that afternoon, I agreed to a final meeting with David and my parents at my corporate office, determined to finish this on my own terms. They walked into the room looking completely exhausted, their faces pale and their usual haughty expressions entirely gone. My mother immediately began pleading for family unity while David sat silently across from me, staring down at his hands in absolute defeat. I leaned forward, resting my hands on the desk, and made it very clear that I would not be backing down or reinstating my exclusive corporate discount under any circumstances. If they wanted to save the wedding and reclaim the venue, David would have to pay the full retail booking price completely out of his own pocket. Furthermore, I demanded that he write a formal, heartfelt letter of apology directly to Lily, acknowledging the cruel thing he had done to her on her birthday. My parents tried to protest, claiming the retail price would completely wipe out David's personal savings account, but I simply stood up and pointed toward the door. They realized they were completely trapped in a corner with absolutely no legal or financial leverage left to use against me. The immense shock and raw panic on their faces perfectly mirrored the devastating realization that their golden child's social standing was completely ruined. David had foolishly thrown away my daughter's joy for a moment of petty amusement, completely unaware that his actions would cost him his entire future. David ultimately couldn't afford the full retail price of the venue, and within a few days, his entire house of cards collapsed. When his wealthy fiancée and her judgmental family found out that the exclusive booking was canceled due to his petty, malicious behavior toward his own 5-year-old niece, they called off the wedding entirely. The fiancée packed her bags, leaving David completely humiliated, broke, and stuck dealing with the massive social fallout alone. My parents tried to blame me for the disaster, but I immediately blocked their numbers and cut off all contact with my toxic relatives for good. I focused all my energy on my boutique business, which quickly doubled its profits over the next few months. With my new financial freedom, I rented out a gorgeous indoor play park and threw a massive, spectacular second birthday celebration for Lily. She got to blow out the candles on a beautiful three-tier castle cake surrounded by people who actually cherished her. What would you have done if you were standing in my shoes on that afternoon? Would you have found the courage to protect your child and let their world burn? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. If you loved watching this arrogant bully get exactly what he deserved, I am leaving two other incredible storytelling videos right here on the final screen. They are absolute channel favorites, and the twists inside them will definitely leave you completely surprised. Thank you so much for watching until the very end, and I will see you in the next story.